maybe go to two page. Cool. Yeah. Here is we want to share this to the website. So you just say share. You say copy. Just take notes of the last three to make sure I'm copying right. So copy. Oh, and one thing. Make sure this is on here and it's not. Because it'll be funny. So then it's right here. That web page. Just go here. That just hit these. Yeah, that's the right one. That could be something like that.
Well, these, yeah, no, I wanna write, you know,
Yeah.
cheat sheets, there's certain things.
Well, let's see if I can go by. Put the share button. But yeah, it's easier.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we go to indexing. And this is, and then when we're ready, I'm just gonna do it now because I'll forget.
Sure.
So you just press.
Or do we have to from every ward?
We've got two from every word. Jennifer didn't put out Deanne's name tag because she knew she was joining from on Zoom, and turns out Paul's gonna join on
He's here.
Zoom as well.
No, he's here.
Oh, he's here?
Yeah.
Oh,
He said he was in a, stuck in Denver or something. It was a-
Wow, it's like a party here.
Yeah.
I did not order that stuff today because there isn't an account set up, and it said,
Hello.
hello. It said, an email will be sent to the email where the account is set up. And
Sure, it's too hot.
twice, it's never changed.
Long legs, tall
Yeah.
person.
That,
I think look at it tonight. We're doing it.
I was just proud of myself. How did you call?
Okay.
So good.
Yeah, of course.
Forgot where I sat. So it's like it's over here.
Got to do a quick scan of the names.
Yeah.
Or you could pretend you're someone else, you know.
Can you see the screen? It's a brand new one.
Oh, we should have this.
Yeah.
I've been here 2 years.
Yes.
Welcome back.
I can give you a link.
Welcome back to life.
The Zoom link, or you can watch it through our website.
Yeah.
Which is, and it says that.
There's a handle on the right that works like backwards to do that.
Tells you
Up and down.
I mean, each line is.
Oh, sweet.
I mean, this one's the general one, so and then it's an attendee, then.
That's true.
It changes.
What? And the arms on the chair.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, see that.
If you wish.
Oh, this one does what I found. Great.
The height.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. same thing. And then, or you, that's our website, and then they're archived on there too.
Just imagine what'll change after the next pandemic.
All right.
Yeah. Forgot my glasses.
Oh dear.
Well, that's an attendee.
Well,
If you wanted.
I strained really hard to do
Something's able to talk. You could just type in the chat, say, I would like to be able to speak, and then I can promote you. But that one's for just like audience, yeah. But you can also.
I've got some folder readers.
Well,
You wanna try them?
I have them in the car. Let me just go running.
Okay.
You know, extra cares everywhere.
Except where you are.
Hey.
Am I in the audience?
No. Should it be?
Got it?
We're gonna be a little offside here. Rich
I thought
doesn't
you
show.
would.
You do need something. Jennifer sets up the names.
You can sit wherever you want.
You can sit.
That's going to be.
Well, it's okay.
That's funny.
So, I just promise, yeah, it reminds me. It's like, we're a pair. I know. I bet.
Historic downtown this way, but it says it comes in the way.
Here, water. It's actually really, really weak, guys.
And it doesn't need to really develop any more things.
Yeah, it's rare that you can find something that when you drink it, it feels creepy.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be another, whatever, probably 200.
I forget my glasses every single time.
You
Oh, I
can.
know. No, I know. Deja vu, huh? Yeah.
It's mom is down.
I've got this shirt, if you want.
Oh, you're so nice, thank you.
Whoa, stylish.
Like them.
But it also says that you don't.
Hi, how are you?
It'll have to be like the restaurant.
Where's the camera? I just want to look at the camera.
99% of our belongings in the house, everything is covered.
Hey, John.
You might have a can of snuff, right?
No, it's cough drops. I got so much postnasal drip going on.
Allergies?
Smoke in the air yesterday.
Yeah.
I stirred up a lot of dust today mowing the lawn. You name it.
You got the nice tan.
So, yes. Alice said she was allergic to pine pollen and she accidentally hit a tree and the whole tree changed.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Mowing the lawn, I hit some of the larger branches one time and I was completely busted. Yeah.
Have you ever seen like, there's like a truck that accidentally bumps one of these trees and it's just a yellow cloud for like 20 minutes?
Yeah, yeah.
We left.
How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Yeah, so it's Hawaiian shirt day. We didn't know.
I didn't take a shower, so I changed my shirt. How about that?
I mean, my kids would tell me this way, but too bad. Hi.
Yeah.
It's a warehouse. with people.
You're on it.
I'm so excited.
You are on it.
I'm so excited.
That's good though, yeah.
Yeah.
Works good.
Goodness sake. So much better.
I'm not gonna do a formal edition of it, but I just want to say thanks to the Parks and Rec Commissions for their hard work on Saturday. They did a great job. Yeah.
I just got. Things that people have some questions on.
Okay.
Okay, Rich is joining virtually,
Okay.
and so is Randy.
Yes.
In that discussion. I'm just gonna, Should I promote them? Maybe I'll wait a minute. to promote it. Is Reno good?
Do you have to pay him more money if you promote?
No, it's great. It's great. It's a bonus.
Because you're gonna have to go across Marion.
Well, I guess as long as if he wants to say something that he raises
Well,
his
let me
hand,
promote
and-
it.
yeah, you might as well.
Go to the head of the
Yeah.
class. Promote him.
Be ready.
Make their year, promote.
I don't think there's too many around that. It was pretty old when I thought it was,
Hey, so somebody did say to me that there's been a number of thefts over at those condos that are next to the road, the new ones. I call them the decades. It's the 1920s, the 1930s, the 1940s.
The apartments.
I call them the decades. People are like pulling over, yeah.
Why don't we
People
do-
are like pulling off the side of the highway, they're running across the road, doing whatever damage they can, and then
Huh. Have you talked to Randy at all?
it's online.
Well, is
I haven't talked to him yet.
Is it public meeting kind of stuff?
That's a good point.
Outside meeting, yeah.
Maybe I should. Okay. I
Or
thought,
talk to that guy outside.
I gave him a chance to hear.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to hear
Right.
all your issues,
right,
all of them.
He'll funnel them. That's why he gets paid.
And there's Jerry.
Oh, yeah. When I'm here, I'll take the door.
Okay, I think we got everybody. All right. All right, my clock says 6:02. I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Georgetown to order. It is Tuesday, June 14th, 2022, and 6:02 PM. And let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
nation,
under
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. I am Lynette Kelsey, Police Judge. Rob Connell,
here.
Deanne Powell. Can't hear you yet, sorry.
About now.
Now,
Yay, I'm here.
okay, John Jennings,
Here.
Paul Hinton,
Here.
Mary Smith, and Rich Barrows.
Here.
Thank you. And agenda approval. I don't have anything to add to the agenda. Does anyone else have anything? I just want to note a correction that Jen put out a revised agenda that gives the correct address for the public hearing for the short-term rental. The address should be 2047 Alliance Drive, so just to correct that, but other than that, nothing. Okay, would somebody like to make a motion to approve? the agenda?
Lynette, I have a question. I see that Randy Williams is here. Last time we talked about doing some extending of the local police's, not necessarily jurisdiction, but at least where they patrolled. And if he's going to talk on that, I don't have a problem, but if not, we should add that to the agenda when he's here.
Under staff items, it could be covered, yes.
Thank you.
Don't really need it to be a formal item, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda dated June 14th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Audience business.
Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest not already on the agenda. Do we have anybody here for audience business, do you think?
No.
Okay. Seeing none, we move on. The payables that we have in front of us today are from May 20th through June 9th, 2022. Any questions or comments on the payables?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Deanne had her hand raised.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Deanne?
Deanne, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I have a couple that I would like to have explained. At 10:45, 550 on page 1, it says supplement pages. Was that for updating the code book?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And on page 2, 1058, 290, 390, hold on a minute. 1058, 390, it says contract building inspect. Is that for Strauss Park?
No.
That is state billed for our contract building inspection for the month.
Okay, thank you. And insofar as, well, we'll probably get into this when we get into the new server, but I wanted to know if insurance was going to cover that 11 grand and on page 1, and or if the town had to eat it.
I believe that Rick has filed the claim. I don't know how long it's going to take them to take a look at it. Is that correct, Rick?
Yeah, I did file a claim. There's parts of it that CERS is looking at that will be covered, hardware, but not anything related to software or documents or anything that was lost. So that still will be determined in the review, and we have $1,000 deductible for that. So it is looking promising though.
Okay. And then on page 5 at 52, 40, 435, it says scum pump troubles. Is that a technical term?
Trouble. You have so many characters that I can type in that will print.
I know what that is.
Maybe Ryan wants to weigh in.
Okay. Is that all the questions that you had, Deanne?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the payables from May 20th to June 9th, 2022.
Second. John.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the payables from May 20th through June 9th, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Don't see any. Thank you. Next, we have the minutes from our last meeting, which was on May 24th, 2022. Any comments, questions, corrections? Don't see any. Who would like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, May 24th, 2022.
I'll second, John.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the May 24th, 2022 meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, next we have agenda item number 1. It is a quote from Axiom for the server replacement. And I'm going to let Rick do the intro on this. Great.
So as you all know, their servers went down because of Excel had a power outage. They were fixing some lines, and then when they turned it back on, it caused a surge into our system and it crashed. And so Axiom was stellar of their response. They came immediately, addressed what happened, and then came back with temporary servers in order to get us going back immediately. And then they came up with a long-term plan. And so what you see that's part of the action item is addressing long-term. The long-term is not part of this. It's only to get us back to just temporary fix. And so, and it's in bold of showing what this quote does not include, because I want to make sure that that was clear with them and with us. And so I'll just preface it with that and then let Paul give some more details.
It's just reconnecting. Sorry, again. Okay, Paul. Oh, Paul, it's Patrick, I believe.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
here. I just lost, I lost your guys' connection there for a second.
Sorry, it just
So
lost
I-
connection. Yeah. Go ahead,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay, so I didn't hear the last, I don't know, couple sentences you guys had said.
Okay, I'll just repeat myself. I was saying that the quote that we presented tonight gives the backstory of what happened, the temporary fix with temporary servers and so forth, and then also what you're suggesting for our long term, which is not part of this quote, but it's included so that they're aware of what our future looking at the budget committee is. And also some of that will be recouped by CIRSA if they were to choose this, to approve this as an insured liability. So, but I just wanted you to explain specifically of what the quote, the 16,000, what that includes.
Absolutely, and I apologize about that. So with that is an actual physical server that we're going to replace the other one that had crashed. So that is actually the bulk of it, a little over $12,000, and then we've got about $4,000 of our labor that we're going to move all of the virtual servers. That's actually the environment that you guys work in. That's the servers that you work in and on every day, to the new servers, set everything up, set up the operating system, set up for UPS backups and offsite backups and all of those things. Does anyone have any questions what's related to that?
I don't. Everybody? Okay. Sounds like everybody's pretty clear on what the quote covers. Any discussion from the board? Okay. So there's a recommended motion in the packets.
I move to approve purchase of one Dell rack mount server, setup and configuration from Access for $16,947.90. All.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of one Dell rack mount server setup and configuration from Axiom in the amount of $16,947.90. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Wonderful, thank you. And thank you so much for getting this up and running so quickly. Very much appreciated.
You are welcome. That's thanks to Patrick and JR. They were immediately on it. Thanks to them, they did a great job. So
yes,
thank you guys.
Something money well spent.
yes, thank you so much. Okay, next we have a short-term rental appeal, and this is a public hearing. Do you want me to open the public hearing?
Sure, yep, let's have it all in the same hearing.
Okay, so it is 6:15 PM and I now open the public hearing. And
We should hear from the staff first and
Okay.
quick report on this, the background for this and the staff's decision. the fact that it's appealable to the board and many of those facts. Then we hear from the property owner that's appealing. Then take any public testimony and any final remarks from the property owner, and then close the hearing for the deliberation for the board.
Okay,
I'll keep track of those and
okay.
keep us all on track. So staff first, then the property owner.
Great. I would assume that you all read the report that I submitted. So we, on May 18th, Jen, our town clerk, went through our short-term rentals and applications, and Mr. Cohen's was the next one in line. And so he was selected and approved. And normally the procedure is to make sure that we're following guidelines. And so guidelines, the first that you want to go through is make sure that it doesn't abut another property. And abut doesn't necessarily mean it's beside each other. It's in all connections of the property. So I did state the code, and so staff, what I am held by is to obey the code. And so when I bring things up, I've got to make sure this is, my job is to support and represent the code in all things that I do. So I was going through it, and we had a staff discussion right after the letter. And it happened to come up that this one was tricky because it does not abut side to side. And so it didn't go through the screening at first to show, oh, this is connected. Because usually when you're going through your system, you could see an addresses beside each other and it'd be a first red flag. Well, this one slipped through the cracks. And by the time I got to me and we were discussing it, it was like, wait a minute. If you look on a map, it does abut. It's right behind it. And so I immediately searched the code to make sure, hey, before we do anything, let's go back. And I looked through the code and I could not interpret it in any other way but what the code said. And so I even put that in here. So it's not my room to interpret, it's to uphold it. And so I did reach out to, talk again to our staff, and I believe Jerry and I talked through to make sure that the code in fact says this and it's what it means. And it does, I'll read it to you. It does say it specifically about what abut means. So it says in section 528.050B1, it goes on to say, not more than one short-term rental shall be located on all properties or lots that abut any street segment. So it doesn't say street, it says properties. And so if it touches, that's abut. And so I immediately, because it just happened, so I immediately made a phone call to Mr. Cohen and told him that we have to revoke his permit, that staff made an error. It is our responsibility to revoke that according to ordinance. And he did call me immediately and we talked about it. And he was aware that there was another short-term rental behind him, but didn't think that that's what it meant by the code. And I just said that this is our decision. He is able to appeal that decision, which is what he did. He followed the guidelines within 15 days. He did submit an appeal letter. And, he did communicate a little bit of frustration and disappointment that it doesn't seem fair, because if you're waiting to be in line and if someone already is using as a short-term rental, even though they have to apply, they get precedent every single time, and that it's impossible to actually get as long as that person continues to rent. And so
Did they get their short-term rental on Bluebird while this guy was waiting for his?
Why don't we do debate kind of questions in a moment? Yeah.
So it was already an existing short-term rental. I don't know how long it was there for, but it's been there existing for years. And so I sympathize with the applicant of wanting to be equitable. If our system is not equitable, it's the way ours is designed. You get on a list and you're waiting to get on a list, and that's how it is. So we don't necessarily renew everyone's every year, even though you have to reapply to keep yours, but he is here tonight to appeal that, and it is not my discretion to go against what our city code is. And I just wanted to make sure our understanding is this is not a variance body to negotiate code. It is to uphold code. So I just want to remind you of that. And if your decision is you don't like the code, then we can rewrite the code, but we have to obey the code.
Questions of staff, and if no questions of staff, then it's the property owner. That's the question.
So do you, Jerry, do you agree with the language that this is in clear violation?
Yes, I will say, and the doubt you hear is that the situation is a little unusual because you have backyards touching and you don't have the new applicant's property touching Bluebird Drive, right? Because it does not at any point touch Bluebird Drive, or touches the property, touches Bluebird Drive, and that property's got an STR on it. And the code is generally written to respond to street segments, you know, and it even talks about corner lots. Okay, if it's a corner lot, which street segments are we talking about? Makes sense. And it says both of them. So the clear emphasis in the code is street segments. You know, on a going forward basis, I think you need to hear from maybe the applicant, and then we can get more advice from me, and I can tell you, in my opinion, sort of what your choices are based upon the evidence you hear.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So your question now?
No, I think you answered it. You know, he was a long time short-term rental on Bluebird.
Correct.
I just wondered if maybe he was waiting for, if they were both in line to get a short-term rental license.
Yeah.
And he got his before him. There's a timing issue.
Okay. Okay.
Looks like Deanne.
Yes, Deanne.
Sorry about that.
There you are.
Have the Cohens resided at 2047 ever, or family member like their grandmother? Or was this bought to be strictly a short-term rental or a rental?
Maybe that question for after the applicant.
Deanne, let's save that question until after the property owner gives his presentation, and then, you know, he may cover that. So this is questions for staff. So do we have staff questions at this time? If not, then it would be appropriate to hear from the property owner. Mr. Cohen?
Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate allowing me to go through the process here and make some comments.
You might want to speak up just a little bit because we have people.
And state your name.
So my name is Chris Cowan, and I am the property owner at 2047 Alliance Drive. And just to kind of answer Diane's question, we actually built that property in 1978 to 1980. It was my dad who built it. We moved in there until I was 8, and then unfortunately we had to move to Denver for work and things like that. But we actually kept it in our family the entire time. So then about 2013, I actually moved back down to the county and I moved up to Silver Plume. And that's when we decided, well, you know, maybe we should start kind of thinking about short-term rental and stuff like that. And I think that's about when you guys, I'm not sure, I think it was 2016 or so, about when you guys went to an ordinance. So we got, or I think we inquired, or maybe we inquired a couple years later after we decided that's what we were going to do. Got on the waiting list, and then sure enough, that's kind of where we live today. So that the property that's actually behind us, there's probably about 50 feet of property that kind of borders or abuts each other, I guess. There is a brick wall on our side that covers that entire path pretty much. So if you're standing there in the backyard, it's difficult to kind of see over that in certain areas and things like that. And I think that road is actually on Selectmen Mountain Road. I don't think it's actually on Bluebird, because there is another one on Bluebird that is pretty close, but maybe I'm not sure. But I thought it was on Selectmen Mountain Road.
It looks like it is, but it's faced, like the door is faced on the other way, so it faces Bluebird, even though it does look like that.
But the entire access is from Saxon Mountain Road. There is no access to that house. I mean, maybe you can come in from Bluebird and park there and walk up, but the driveway and all of the access, all the parking is completely not on the same street as we're on there. So, so I read the code. I understand that there's no abutting, things like that. It looks like following that, there is a way to apply for a special use permit within certain sections of that. And so that's kind of why I was here today, to see if I could, at least apply for that, or what the process would be like that. I also did, in kind of discovery, I did notice that there were other properties within the town of Georgetown in each separate ward, Ward 1, 2, and 3, that also do have abutting properties next to each other with different property owners and not necessarily living in the same town or in the same parcel, things like that. So I do have some things to share if you guys want to look at that, but I did do some research on that, so that's good. So,
It's your case to present, so as much as you want to present, you should do it now. Now's the time.
well, I can pass these around, so the first, I wish I could share it in that thing. The first one that comes around is you can see the properties on the top. Maybe I'll put Orion's, this is ours.
Should we make
I can
copies?
email it I can scan it.
And
email
this is
it.
the.
Yeah,
I think we have to do that. I mean, let's take a little, if you want to do that. We're gonna have to take a break.
Is there just one copy? Do you want me to make copies and then?
I mean, if it's easier, I guess I was just trying to show on this where the property line is. Yeah, and then there's one more.
Okay. Okay.
What I'm gonna do is we've got two board members that aren't here.
Right.
So
I can just email it, or
I can hear me out.
Yeah.
To the extent you want to, show people things on a diagram, we're gonna have to make it available to them. Or you can, there's 3 doors. You can describe it orally so that you don't need the map. Or we take, or we roll this over to the next board meeting so that everyone can have it in their hands. So you have to make that, that's a
well,
choice for you.
why don't I email it to you real quick and you can email it to.
That's what she's doing. She's making copies of the
Yeah.
mail and it over it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you've got other things you want to cover while that's happening, we can avoid a little recess here, but
Yeah.
it's your show.
Well, I kind of talked about the parking, that there's no necessarily, I don't feel like there's any issue with the parking because it's on a completely different street and access to that area. In the code, and this is what you'll kind of see, it talks about that a special use permit can be applied if there's more than 5 parcels that front face that lot. And on one of the things that will get passed around, shows 9 to 10 different parcels on that lot, or on Alliance Drive, that front face the street, and that not necessarily one short-term rental on that. And I say 9 to 10 because one of them is kind of 2 parcels owned by the same person, but they look like they're 2 different parcels, so I wasn't quite sure, but. So there's that, and then you also see the 3 different areas, Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 3, but there's multiple properties abutting each one of those sections.
Do you have examples of that?
That's in
That's
that.
okay.
Gotcha.
We live in the county, we live close by, we don't necessarily reside in that place, but we did reside in that place for, at least I did for 8 years. And then following that, our family, it's been, just really our family's house. I mean, my aunt stayed there when she comes to town. My sister, when she comes up to Denver, my mom, when they come up to Denver, they stayed there, things like that. So that's that's what we use it for right now. And I think our goal is to, at least be able to get some short-term rental income off of it as well at the same time. So, and as well as allowing them to be able to still utilize it, but help supplement the thing. We've kept the house in really good condition. We've replaced the roof, we painted it, we've done all the maintenance. We've always, paid the taxes. We've done the whole thing. I mean, so I feel like we're a good candidate for it, and just because we have a place that's behind us. I feel like there should be some, especially.
What's above the garage?
What's above the garage?
Is that another unit? I mean, is that?
No, it's just it's kind of like a studio or apartment type.
So it is it could be like, so it's got a kitchen, bathroom, bedroom living area.
Yeah, kind of a living area with a bathroom.
I think it's frozen.
To give us some more time, we could take questions of the applicant, but from the board, and we
Okay.
could also, hang on. We could also take some public comment too. if you
Okay.
like, while we're waiting for that exhibit to get around.
Okay. Questions for the applicant?
I'm good.
Yes, Deanne?
Would you consider renting the property as a full-time rental rather than a short-term rental?
No, because we want to be able to use it for our family at the same point. You know, they live in Denver, they come up and enjoy skiing just like, you know, most of us do here at Loveland. And, you know, that's our family right up there at Loveland, and that's where they come, so that's where they love to stay. And the other piece of that is, we like you know, we've had multiple short-term rentals in the past, not necessarily in this county, but in some, we had one. And we really liked the short-term rental because every time somebody came in and out, we cleaned it, we made sure it was maintained, and everything was in neat and working order versus, you know, having a long-term rental and you know, it not, and needing more and more maintenance over time. And not, that's kind of general speaking, but
We'll just not know.
yeah, just not knowing, and you know, you have to kind of go in there, you have to obviously notice for everything, but the idea of having the short-term rental for that house is very nice, because then we're not adding more maintenance and things like that. I'm sure it will.
If this is a point I could speak, public comment.
Hang on just a second, Randy. I saw your hand raised. I know you have comments.
Well, I was
Go ahead.
actually gonna ask Randy of like, from a police department's perspective, why do we have that law, you know, that part of the ordinance abutting? And from a police department, I'd like to hear from that and give comment intent wise of.
Well, and that was going to be my comment is the ordinance was framed in that fashion for the benefit of the existing residents and neighbors. So this particular unit already has a short-term rental on one side of it, would now have a short-term rental on another side. And the owners always have the best of intentions, but they don't always get the best of renters because it's so random who might choose to rent there. But and that pretty much removes that from being as big of a problem. The second part of Mr. Cohen's issue on not ever being able to, I think that's a legitimate concern and might be something that could be revisited in the future in the ordinances. But I think having the properties that butt up next to each other or abut to each other is going to have a greater impact on the neighborhood and on the existing residents, full-time residents.
Okay. All right. I actually had a couple of questions. So are there any other short-term rentals on Alliance? No. So is you. And how long have you been on the waiting list? Do you remember?
Is there a way to tell that? Of what they put on? I would have to go back and look it up, but I mean, I think it's been at least a year or so.
Oh, man, it has to have been, it's
Okay.
like 2017, I would say.
Okay, okay.
And so can I make a comment real quick too? I mean, it's very interesting that he said that. It's been on for a long time. And okay, say he goes back, he gets denied, and then it comes back again. And we'll come back to the same problem. Because as long as that other one is a rental, he will never get a chance. So it's like, it's kind of revealing a little bit of problem that we have.
Right.
So.
I mean, in my view, yeah.
How did the others become abutted?
The,
Grandfather?
well, So they were existing, so many of the short-term rentals were existing when even the original ordinance went into place. And then when we did the revision that further restricted how close they could be to each other, that's the wording we came up with. And it was the real problems were happening up here in Ward 1, not so much down in Ward 2 and Ward 3, but still, when you start having a lot, very concentrated, you do tend to change the character of a neighborhood. And it was, the intention was to get them, make sure that they weren't right next to each other in any fashion. Now, I mean, we could have, there may have been an unintended consequence because of how it was worded, and it might, it might need to go back under review and look at revisions, but have we had any issues?
I think you ought to let Mr.
Go back
Cohen
to-
really finish his case.
Okay, certainly.
Because you're sort of getting into
Certainly, you're
two
right.
other things. What
You're
about,
right.
what do we do here and what do we do on the
You're
cover,
right.
which is not.
Okay, so.
Okay, so
We're back to this.
let's pull up this one first.
Sorry,
and then
let
we
me get it, hold on, I'm sorry.
So I went on to the Georgetown website.
Wait till she's ready.
Till she's back chaired.
The old section, overhead projector. Old school.
We can write on.
That's right.
Okay. Oh, and it's up there, sweet. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So I went on to the Georgetown website, and there's a list of all the different short-term rentals as of Q2 2/21, I believe. So I mapped out all of those, and that's kind of what this is right here. The three marks in the red are the three marks that I saw two or more coming in. So the following pages, the next one is.
Did you share your screen?
No, I haven't shared it yet.
Yeah, share your screen.
Oh, you
Yeah.
didn't share the screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Guys.
Okay,
I gotta save it first, hold on.
got it.
Sorry,
We skipped a step.
that I did.
Sounds like a heart monitor in the back. Somebody's hooked up.
That's my EKG.
I'm glad you're here, because I was hearing it all morning.
It's the ghost.
Okay. All right.
Now it's there.
Okay, can everybody, Deanna and Rich and Randy, can you see? Deanne can't. She's shaking her head, no.
I have a display on the screen.
Well, if Rich can see
Can
it,
you guys,
there's no reason.
Rich, can you see it?
Is that screen?
Rich can.
Deanne, can you see it?
Yes, you can see it. Perfect.
Okay,
Okay.
that was a thumbs up.
All right.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
Sorry.
thank you. Okay, carry
So,
on.
The first one that you come to on the second page is the closest one. So this is in Ward 3. There's 2 units that essentially abut kind of right up by the lake. And then it also kind of shows where the Blue Mountain one is, where the Saxon Mountain Retreat is, which is the one that's in question that abuts is ours, but that's the name of it essentially. And then it shows Alliance Drive. So it kind of shows in reference about where those essentially abut to it, and then the actual properties that do abut. So I didn't know, I guess I wanted to point out that there is already properties that do abut, and to understand if there's been any, you know, red flags with those two properties that are right next to each other versus the one on Alliance and Saxton that are maybe close and border a little bit of fencing, but not necessarily any other access or amenities or anything like that.
Okay.
The second one is in Ward 2, or sorry, it's actually in Ward 1.
Are you on page 2 still?
Yeah, I'm on page 2. If this is in Ward 1, it's
The second example.
yeah, the second example is in Ward 1 for Funk, and then the HHC investment trust as well too.
Okay.
So there's two properties there, and then the third one is essentially kind of right next to the park off Rose and 10th and House, but there's two other properties over there that do also like each other. The second pamphlet.
The black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just over the first page of the document. It just shows you where the Saxon Mountain Retreat is compared to where our property is, Alliance.
Wait a minute, I'm not sure where you are.
It's in the right spot.
You're good. Is that the
It's right there. You're fine.
Oh,
You're fine. You're fine.
And then the various partials, but the kind of the goal of this piece was to talk about, in the short-term rental ordinance, it talks about that it can be issued if there's on the same street, there's more than 5 parcels that front face that street. So Alliance has, like I said, 9 to 10 parcels. The first one with the red car in front of it, MDS at Geo, whatever that was. Parcel name MDS at GEOTNFP F4B1L15.
Okay.
That's the first one that you come to on the street that faces that. That's the parcel name. The next one is the 2 apartments that come next to that. There's 2 parcels on that, so there's 2 more for that, so that'd be 3. The third one is the exact same sort of building, 2 more parcels, that'd be 5. So then we're skipping ours, because I haven't included that, but I think it would still be in the parcel. But then the next one over from ours is parcel MDS at GOTNF4B1L9. That'd be 6.
You're good.
You're
good. Am I good?
Yep. Yeah, that was that one.
Keep going, Jim.
Going down?
Yeah.
The next one, yeah, 7, 8, so the one in green and then the next one in yellow. Those are the 2 lots that are essentially owned by the same person, but I'm only counting the green ones because, you know, for this presentation.
Okay.
And then the following one is the last one on that same page. There's one other parcel that's essentially comes up to that street, but it front faces the Lake Street, whatever.
Clear Creek Drive.
Clear Creek Drive.
Clear Creek Drive. It front faces that. So I'm not necessarily saying that that would be down.
Okay. So, and were you saying that for the wording in the ordinance, does it allow it if there are, how does this relate to the wording in the ordinance about the 5 on the street?
Oh, that's a special use permit.
Okay, got it.
That's not in front of you tonight.
Okay, correct.
You know, that's an
Got it.
option that someone can apply for if they're otherwise not, you know, not eligible. And
Got it.
if you uphold the administrative decision, Mr. Cohen will still be not eligible. But the special use permit outlet is available. But of course, That's an application that requires certain things to be demonstrated, filed
If we-
with the town
if
and,
Okay.
and processed,
Okay.
but not processed at this hearing because this is the hearing on just the revocation.
All right.
Did you have other things to present?
I think that's it.
Questions of the applicant, or we could probably take, did you bring people? There's friends and family?
Oh, I guess the only
Testimony
other-
here?
I guess the only other question I had was, throughout this entire process, we sent 2 forms of letters to 300, or to the properties that were bordering within 300 feet of our property. And I guess my question is, was there anybody in that process that appealed during those process? Obviously, probably not, because I got granted the permit, right? But was there anything that got appealed during that time?
Fair question.
I wouldn't know.
I defer to Jen.
No.
Okay.
So,
Members of the public?
okay, do we have any members of the public that would like to make comment?
I don't know of any.
Okay. All right.
Unless they're concluding remarks from the property owner, we can have, the board can deliberate. If they've heard everything that you want them to hear.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, then I will close the public hearing. It is 6:47. And any comments from the board?
Well, it doesn't feel like this is an overloading situation, but I agree that the town administrator probably read through the ruling correctly or the code correctly. And I feel like we're kind of tied this hearing to uphold the administrator's decision, even though I feel like we have grounds to look and see if we can maybe come up with something that would allow for, situations like this that were unintended.
Okay. Yes, Mary?
So I appreciate your packet and your information. When we revised the code and put in the abutting section, it was because we were trying to avoid sections of town becoming short-term rentals, in those big pocket areas. And the few that you pointed out, I know they've been there for a long time. And if they give up their license, then they would be under the same conditions that you are, as well as if the home on Bluebird has violations that their permit is pulled, and then that could open up the door for you in kind of a, strange way. But I think when we revised the ordinance, this was what we were trying to avoid, were those chunks of areas in town, 2, 3, 4 lots in a row with short-term rentals, even though you do back up, but with the streets the way they are, it still creates that same situation. So trying to be respectful of the long-term residents, full-time residents, whatever. So I agree that we need to abide by the way our ordinance is written.
Just for this meeting, but there's definitely avenues where he can exercise later on. Isn't that the intent? There's a special use permit that he can take advantage of.
There is, it's limited.
Yeah.
One of the key limitations is that if that is to be granted a special use permit, I'm reading from the code, that short-term rental home has to be the primary residence of the property owner, and the short-term rental use is part-time. And at the moment, at least we have testimony that the property owner does not live in that home.
Got it.
Now, property owner can make a different decision around that, and that's got to be part of his calculations in the future if that's how it goes.
Got it.
But I would say it's not sort of a slam dunk easy out because of that condition. And you can understand why that condition was also was written.
I just want to also address that too. And when we look at code, we're not ever I don't want to give false hope that just because you have an option for special use, that it gives you the leeway, because there's other parts of code that says if it violates in another section of code, that doesn't give you authority to override that code. And so code is code, and we have to make sure that it doesn't violate other sections. So I still think that this is not an easy win, no matter which way you look at it. It's still in violation until that code is changed. Special use doesn't give you another layer that says, oh, I supersede that. Like a variance. A variance gives you a chance to change and fluctuate. This is not that. So because it's already in violation, that's a stickler on this situation. So I just want to make sure we understand that.
So, Paul, did you have anything?
Well, when I first came in here, I kind of was against short-term rentals, because I have a property I rent long-term. And just for example, this past, my tenant had to move due to job reasons. I put it online on Thursday night, and within Friday afternoon, I had 6 applications, of which one I accepted. Not even 24 hours. So that's the kind of demand that's out there for long-term rentals. But Chris is a long-term local. Been in and out of Georgetown, Silver Plume, Denver, versus these others, Littleton, Austin, Dallas, Lakewood. Just kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. I know that all these owners have the right to do short-term rentals and stuff. So I feel for Chris. I understand that it's family owned. They still want to use it periodically. That's why they want to do the short-term rental thing versus the long-term rental. Because that was a question that I was going to have that Deanne asked. Just my thoughts. I understand we have to abide by the code. They were there for a reason. And I understand these 3 violations that you outlined there are probably grandfathered in. But I know the code is there for a reason to avoid this situation, but we have some examples already here that it's already doing that. I can see from Chris's point that that seems a little bit unfair. Just my thoughts. I know that we have to follow the code. So I guess I'm just kind of expressing this, if there was a way, be a short, a special use permit or something like that, I would look into that to try to support that.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
Thanks. Thank you, Paul. Rich, did you have any comments or?
I guess I was waiting for Jerry to give us the 3 doors.
He always has them ready.
He does. And I mean, to me, Rick made the right call. We have an obligation to uphold the law. And then, so what are our next steps then? Or what are the property owner's next steps? That to me is what needs to be determined.
Okay. Deanne, do you have any comments?
She needs a big red mute button on her desk.
It's not, you're still muted.
Not our problem.
I agree with everything Paul said. I really want to support locals, but at this particular moment, we're stuck with the code that's there. So I don't know how to help with this. I really wish he would go, Mr. Cohen would consider long-term, because there are so many people here hurting for a place to live rather than a place to visit. But again, you know, this is the code we're working with now.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So I think the question is, what are our choices here?
Well, the code's, pretty straightforward that this is an appeal to you, and so your job is to either uphold or reverse the decision of the administrator, which was to revoke the permit. So, and I'll give you some other things in a minute, but the two kind of straightforward motions would be move to uphold the administrator's decision to revoke the permit for 2047 Alliance Drive, or move to revoke the administrator's, move to reverse the administrator's decision. If you reverse the administrator's decision, short-term rental permit is granted and is allowed. If you move to uphold his decision, then it's revoked. So those are two pretty short. I gave a little thought to whether the code gives you room to revoke or uphold with conditions, and in my opinion, it does not, because you've got a decision to revoke, and that's an up or down. In that particular case, there's not a sort of door number 3 around that. Certainly after you've made whatever decision you've made there, it would be appropriate and to have a little discussion, not for a lengthy amount of time, but a little discussion while Mr. Cohen is here about other things you might want to do with the code. And I can think of a couple things that have come up in the discussion here that you might want to address, and that might provide other opportunities for people. I don't want to presuppose what decision you'll make, but once you do that, I think it's appropriate to sort of divide the debate on this application and, okay, what do we do policy-wise going forward on the code itself? Is really a separate, related, but separate discussion you ought to have for a few minutes of, and you can direct staff to bring options back to you for your consideration on that. But I've got some ideas for those options. So in terms of your motions, it's move to uphold administrator's decision on 2047, move to reverse the administrator's decision on 2047.
So I'll make a motion to uphold the town administrator's decision to revoke the short-term rental permit for 2047 Alliance Drive.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to uphold the town administrator's decision to revoke the short-term rental permit for 2047 Alliance Drive. Any further discussion of the board? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes.
Before
So
we release this topic, and thanks for your indulgence in letting me add some of the agenda, sort of, but it's so related, and I know it's real importance to Mr. Cohen, and it is more fair to him to at least hear a little bit of what some choices are, and that you might direct the administrator and I to come back with. There's two possible sort of code adjustments here that you might direct to make. One would be to have the staff look at what it means to be abutting by backyard and what kind of distances are involved there. Because traffic, of course, to one, if they're abutting by backyards, will not be in front of and parking in front of the other one, because it's two different streets, but the backyards touch. And is there a distance or a rule that you'd like to at least explore around that? So that's one thing I think ought to be talked about, because that is the situation.
Sure.
It is.
Can abutment be examined on a case-by-case basis? Is that just asking for trouble?
I think it's probably asking for trouble.
Brain damage. Yeah.
I think people really need guidelines.
Got it.
And that otherwise that sets people up to come in and continually be disappointed or rewarded in ways that appear arbitrary. I really think people are okay about following rules by God if they know what the rule is. I think it might be important to make it clear. But we can certainly look at what distances are we talking about. It's not something to fashion an ordinance by committee here today. But what I'm trying to articulate is just what you might direct us to explore. The other thing you might direct us to explore is the degree to which a second short-term rental permit could be available by special use permit. And it was the point that was made here about, well, where's the applicant living? And you can put constraints and remove constraints on that. Right now, it's got to be your primary home.
Right.
If you can say it's got to be the primary home, you can split that up a little bit and say, it's got to, it's got to either be the primary home or the property owner has to live in the county. As an example.
Or the state. You can even go that far.
Yeah, I mean, there are discussions about whether somebody out of state or in state, metro area, the county. Again, that's a policy discussion you shouldn't have right now, or we'll be here forever. But it is fair to make that, to draw that line. And you've kind of drawn that line already by saying they've got to live in the house. But that's just a line that's been drawn in one place, and you can draw it in
No,
another.
it's a very narrow line. You can widen that line.
You can widen that line. That's exactly right. So those would be the two options I can think of that might deserve a little code massaging. Not to open the door wide open, because as Mary pointed out, in situations like this, the town engaged in all the work in 2016 to create this system, and you don't want, by making other changes, to erode that. But it's a fair matter for debating.
Yeah, I think too, just to add, I'm fine with pursuing any of that direction. I do think there may be some wiggle room for us to discuss and clarify the backyard thing. For example, if it completely touches the backyard in the exact same footprint, then I can see that being a no. But in this case, it doesn't. It is only a small section that it abuts. And so I think maybe we can massage that to discuss if you're open to that, of saying, hey, it's an exception. It's not completely backyard. It is backyard only in a small proximity. And I think that's a possibility for us to look at. I mean, we could still say no, but I think it does offer us to do some research to see if does that still fulfill our intent of why we didn't want a bunch of short-term rentals? And if it doesn't, then we have to uphold our code. But anyways, that was an example of what Jerry was saying. The backyard piece can be looked at.
Unless there's objection from the board, the town administrator and I will pull that together and have it as a staff item for discussion. And this concludes your item, but meanwhile, Mr. Cohen remains on the waiting list because he's back on that list in the same place he was, doesn't lose his place.
That's what I was just gonna ask, that he's not.
No, because all you've done is,
bottom of the pile.
no, all you've done is reverse the decision to grant a permit.
Sure.
So he, that's as much as you've done, and that's all it should be.
And refunded too, whatever he had to pay for that. So. Good.
Thanks, stay tuned.
And thank you for bringing that to us.
The length of time could be something there too, that, if that property's had a short-term rental for 10 years or something like that. There might be some other, I don't know what it would look like, but that seems to be kind of another problem too. And I like how you have to own the property for 2 years in order to apply. I think that's a smart decision, especially when you have to change that within I think from 2016 to 2018.
I wrote it down. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All
Thanks for
right.
coming in.
Yeah,
Thanks for your package.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Agenda item number 3 is a presentation from Business Promotions Commission for the new banners on Argentine Street. Well, this is new territory
It's
for
actually
us.
easier, if you sit there,
Yeah.
people on the screen can see.
This is weird.
You're gonna have to do it.
Or you could ask Lynette to please move.
No.
That's better.
That chair's perfect for her. It's a hard chair.
You're gonna assume the position.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mary Cooper. I'm here tonight on behalf of Georgetown Business Promotions Commission. Jen Jordan here as well. And we are here tonight to appeal for a supplemental for our budget to reprint the banners from their entirety into town.
I can't hear.
Okay, thank you.
So we are here tonight to appeal for the banner for a supplemental to our budget, thank you. For all of the banners to be reprinted to be clear, this is the same basic design with an update to the lettering to change the black and the white to all white, and with some improvements to the photo definition, but the design is not going to change. In your packet, you should have received a bid. That bid did have an installation quote on there that obviously does not appeal or apply to us, rather, excuse me. So in this case, the bid is just for the replacement of all of the banners. And we have a sample. Yeah, you are, you're much taller.
Here's the example of the new.
This is not how they'll look,
No.
these are just two examples of the.
With the white colors.
Well, should they be different on either side? I mean,
Yeah, that's.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Please turn it to the camera.
In a moment, yes.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
And the other difference, this versus the old is this is a stronger vinyl. So this is an 18-ounce thicker vinyl.
That's what our old ones were on.
Yep, the ones we had previous to this round one, 18-ounce. The ones we have up now are on 16-ounce, so this should.
Okay.
In the stitching, there's some good reinforced stitching here that the current do not have as well. So they should hold up better.
Do you want to show the other side? Yeah, to the camera.
You should have them made by ocean-going sailmakers.
Towards Jen.
There.
It says stroll through Colorado.
Okay.
Got it? Here's the other side, in case I look at it.
Two examples.
Before.
Ski adventure for the family.
So all the lettering will look like this now. They'll be all white.
But will it still have the photos?
Yes.
Okay.
There are still gonna be the photos, there is going to be, we were able to get the file to Ink Monster, is the company that we would like to work with. We vetted a lot of companies and we feel that they're the most competent. They did get the photo files. They're ginormous files. So it was very difficult for them to like download them individually. They're going to try and improve the definition and the color base of them, but we're not investing in a full-on redesign of those photos, just an improvement in what we're seeing in the photo.
The clarity.
The clarity,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think with the confidence that these guys have shown us, Jen, myself, and Mary have all taken a visit to them. I think that they'll do a really good job of updating the photo files and getting them so that they look a little bit clearer.
Yes, Deanne?
The current ones, they have like a vertical stripe on one side that's a nice clear picture, and then a stripe on the other side that looks half done. Can we see that? I need assurance that that's not going to be there because it looks half done. It looks bad.
So I can't assure you that is part of the design that Business Promotions voted on when we did our RFPs like a year ago for these. So that stripe, it corresponds with every banner. And there is a file that I sent to Jen that kind of shows what those look like, but the stripe, that would push us to a redesign, which we're not undertaking at this time. This is just an update on what's existing.
I would either need to see them, like email all of us graphics, or else I'll have to vote against it because that just looks bad. It looks half done.
The stripe is part of the design that we voted on, so that's not going to go away. I'm sorry.
Is that, well, I'm just trying to understand the scope of your objection, Deanne. Is this on one or two banners,
No.
or is it
So it's like-
many?
On the banners down on Argentine, it's a vertical stripe that takes up half of one side. On one side, there will be lettering. And it'll say something about the, Hotel de Paris or something. And then on the back of it, there'll be a picture that half of it is nice and clear and you can see. And then there's this just gross swipe of brown that covers up things and doesn't look particularly inviting. So
this is in part of what they're gonna do is align these a little bit, but this stripe, and I can show it.
No, it's like one is like clear and one's antique.
It's kind of, that was the point of the actual
I like it.
design. It was in the original design frame. But we can't take that stripe off because that would be a
I
redesign.
understand. I
And now,
understand.
then the banners aren't
Can
gonna.
we
No, but
show
the
that
intent is
to
to look
the
at, they can look antique.
I'm gonna, here, let me get, yeah, let me find.
So I see what you mean, Deanne, but
So
it,
this one is like the, that's the photography one.
it looks,
It's okay.
okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, okay.
But Deanne, we're not here to approve the design. That was done and given to the Business Promotions Commission a few years ago. That's why we have the different commissions that different parts of, operating this town go to, and then they come back to us for the final purchase, basically. This isn't a vote on whether we like the design. We gave Business Promotions Commission the task to have them design. So we're beyond the design. We're trying to correct the damaged ones and to provide more clarity to the ones with this new. I'm just simply explaining.
I can't vote on throwing money at good money after bad. Sorry.
Okay. All right, any other comments?
None.
Okay,
I move to approve the purchase of 65 banners from Ink Monster for $7,596.
I'll second that.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of 65 banners from Ink Monster in the amount of $7,596. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, I'm very opposed. I'm not
Okay.
throwing good money after bad. That looks horrible and it wasn't
All right,
That's all you
All
have
right.
to say.
presented that way. If we can change the lettering colors, because it was also presented when that was approved, we should be able to approve getting this stupid splotchy thing off.
okay. I think Amanda's presentation did address the lettering initially, so I think that issue is being corrected. So.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Now we are on to staff items. First on our list is the discussion on water and sewer annual increase. So I'm gonna turn that over to, is it Ryan and Mary?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, there is a spreadsheet in your packet. What Ryan brought to my attention is that a lot of his testing and sludge hauling and stuff is having increases that we had no idea would be occurring this year. So I created some scenarios on the spreadsheet just to kind of see what would cover these additional expenses that he is going to incur for 2022. The first yellow column is the scheduled increase that we have every year. The blue is the scheduled increase plus 1%, and then the green is scheduled plus 1.5%. The pink at the far left is what the rates are currently, and Ryan can speak to what has, that he's aware of that has increased, and he did some calculations as far as what that's going to do to his budget.
Well, to start with it, normally just the regular increase of what, 2.6?
2.91 on
the
water and 2.67 on sewer.
And sewer. Normally that just covers a a normal year's inflation or billing. Obviously, this is not one of those years. So to stick on line with that, it will cover increases that are gonna happen anyhow, but I did research on just a few of the things that I started to get hit on pretty hard, and my sampling, which is a good portion of the budget, it's almost $30,000, is a 5% increase, not the 2.2. And these are the big ones that I normally have to do. All our instrumentation and the contracts that I hold with them as they come out quarterly, annually, and do calibrations and different things like that, because that's required by the state to have a third party overlook those calibrations, that I'm not just fudging it to make it, so it has to be a third party entity that comes out and does that. That's 12% increase on that, and I think that's just a $5,000 contract or something like that. McDonald's Farms, I know we brought that up before, for septic receiving. So we already addressed my intake from other entities of Empire, septic, or search septic and different things like that. But just town sludge that I have to deal with too, besides all the people that, they are probably about 10% of my 90% of what we do for sewage. So that the septic receiving is minute of what, just as a community, what we do. 45% increase on that, and that's a $70,000 budget item. And so just to start thinking of some of these numbers, I put together chemicals, 9%, and just water alone, I think is 67,000. What I came to is that obviously the 2.6 and 2.9 isn't going to cover some of these large increases. And this, I didn't even get into fuel, Excel, power. I mean, I didn't go through every line item. I just got kicked in the nuts by some of these bigger entities that I didn't even need to go digging that far in to realize I don't think I'm going to make it.
Would 1.5 put you ahead? Like what? I noticed that 1 is in the blue, that seems to be anemic, and 1.5 is green, meaning it's going to be a lot more lucrative.
Looking at some of the things I kind of did, or you're saying, yes.
He's doing a color interpretation of the columns.
I did not think about color.
Don't-
when I put
One
it
water
on.
guy to another. He's colorblind.
I'm just wondering if the 1.5 would get us ahead and kind of prepare us for any kind of an impact that we may see with regard to these costs that might be unforeseen. Just like you got,
I
yeah,
got you.
yes.
I wasn't leaning towards the 1.5.
Well, I am.
You are.
I think homeowners ought to send you an extra $100, but that's all I think the water and wastewater folks can, just don't get
We know
enough.
where your
but- sorry.
loyalties lie.
It's just my
Yes.
personal,
Yes.
anyway.
Just
Go ahead,
looking at
Doug.
increases down on the bottom, from what regular is going to be about a $29,000 increase of doing the 2.9. Doing an extra 1% is only going to get an extra 10,000 per water, per wastewater, so it's 20,000. And what I looked at adding a lot of this up was I was going to come in at $30,000 to $40,000 over. So I don't want to put that much of a burden on things that are unforeseen. And I was leaning towards an extra 1% increase for an extra 10 per budget item.
Is that gonna be enough? though? Right.
But I mean.
Your crystal ball broken.
But I,
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if maybe a conservative approach might be the smartest thing.
I'm a frugal guy to begin with, and I'm super conservative.
Well, I'm
You know,
just,
So I'm.
I'd rather have you, I wish you had more to operate with, that's all I'm saying.
This is what I would recommend, and this
Okay.
is what I'm thinking about and pushing towards.
We can always revisit it.
Well, we're not voting on it tonight.
No, I know, it's just
So,
a discussion.
but
But if you want to, if you think 1% will get you through, then we can always revisit another 0.5%.
This is happens in July, right, Mary?
It will be before the board at the next meeting.
Yes.
The increase.
So we have,
Right.
so we'll have to make a decision next time.
Correct.
You don't have to make a decision now, but I mean,
No.
if you think 1% is okay.
That's what actually, it's not 1%, it's 4%.
Right.
It's 4%.
Right.
Basically.
So that's a thought in my head too, that we're already doing 3 of them. It's a 25% increase of what is normally recommended.
Got it.
And so 25% is what I look at the percentages on that, and does that cover 45%, increase in different things like that on some. So
So,
that's how I look at it a little bit, not 1%. I look at a 25% asking over our 3% level. So that's a different angle how to look at it.
So
See, I see.
what's gonna happen though if the 4%, the additional 1%? That's if we vote next time to put that into place, if that is not enough as the next 12-month period goes by, where then are we all out there with hand pumps? I'm kidding.
Well,
I mean, what, then what?
If you see towards the end of 2022, that it's not revisited either during 2023 budget discussion and say, okay, starting January 1st, we're gonna have to have a 6 month, after 6 months, increase it again. I mean, I think that's fair. I hate to put the burden, if we don't need it, on customers.
Right.
So you just revisit it at budget time, like take another look at it in October, see if we're going along okay. If it looks like it's not cutting it, then at budget time, you discuss putting an extra increase in place in January.
So with the 4% increase, the conservative approach, but with the extra increase, do you both feel confident that will be on par at least until the end of this year, 2022? I mean, I know no one has a crystal ball. I get
Anything
that.
can happen.
Well, I get that.
I would say at
It's
this
been
point,
brought to.
going in so far, borderline. And I think this might change that a little bit coming into the end of the year. And if we overshoot, then I don't think that. I don't think I'm gonna undershoot. We've had freezes before that we will get it in November. We kind of do some budget freezes a little bit. We really need to focus on what we're gonna buy. So that has happened in the past, well, under my reign. But if it overshoots, then I look at next year too, like I mentioned to John in the conversation earlier too, that next year we don't do 2.9%, and so I look at that and I see that as a community, and I live here too, and so this is all that we all put into the bucket, and what can I do with the money that what I need to do with, and so either if we overshoot, it goes to some of the loans, because we still have loans on the water and wastewater plant, if it overshoots some of that gets paid off a little bit next year. We go 25% below the request and going to do a 1%, raise or something like that.
Okay.
So I look at overshooting it, I think I can handle a freeze come November, different things like that, where normally it's the lower flow of the season now, other than just the holidays. But that's just my recommendation at this point. I would rather be prepared a little bit right now to see what the entire economy, because we're all based off that a little bit, is what direction that really is gonna go. And it can fluctuate next year's budget also. And so I think that's not so big as, like, if you think 1%, I look at 25%.
Yeah.
Of all the work. So that's my recommendation.
Are you
Mary, just to point out, you all got your May draft
Yeah.
financials, and he's within 1% of being right on target right now.
Even with those increases that we have
Yes.
incurred.
I'm at, so we're at 41% of budget at this point. I'm at 42% spending. I'm 1% over on water, and my sewer is at 40.
40, right?
So I'm 1% under on sewer. So I mean, that's where I'm getting that 1% also.
All right.
And I'm right where it is. So things continue to go up, obviously, I'll fall behind. But hopefully this can kind of.
Keep up the good work.
Okay. Deanne, you have a question?
Is there any way that the town can help support our water and sewer? Because water and sewer, fire and police are really, really necessary, important infrastructure-y things. And right now, all the regular citizens are being hit with all sorts of inflation and like food's up, I don't know, ridiculous amounts. And we can't just count on each of the citizens being okay with this. I mean, there are people here who live on fixed incomes. There are people here that can't pay their rent already. Consequently, even $3 or $5 a month is a lot, 60 some a year. Is there any fund that we can tap into where the town can help, for want of a better word, subsidize the water and sewer, because we need to have them? And I think we're beating up our citizens too much. We need to, they're not cash cows,
What I can address to that is I know there's grants and loans out there. Most of them are not for operational. Most of them are for improvements or, different types of, capital improvements or.
So they won't work.
For upgrades, not to cover a daily operational.
Okay. Mary Sims, is there some place we can find money to be able to help pay for the water and sewer, fire and police?
The water and sewer are both it's an enterprise fund. So think of that like a business. So the town's general fund or other funds cannot subsidize the business, which is the water and sewer enterprise fund.
Is there a workaround?
No.
Unless you wanna go to jail.
I mean, that's by law.
I think you've gotta go to jail, if that's the workaround.
Taxes, I'm completely separate from the general.
Yes,
fund.
correct.
So property
Yeah.
taxes go up.
If that doesn't help, that
That
doesn't
doesn't
help
fund
you.
me.
No, you are a business.
Mine's off.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there's no way to soften this blow for the citizens who are on fixed incomes. We went through this several years ago, having to make a larger increase than even we're talking about now, because our increases had not kept up with all of the expenses. We also are required to be able to set aside funding for the upgrades and replacement of these plants when they reach their end of life. And it's not something we can put off. We've got to, every single year, you've got to bite the bullet that's in front of you. And I guess my question is, you know, going with that 3.91% increase, is that actually, does that cover both the increases in actual expenses and also the increase in the expectation of what it would cost to replace those plants when they reach end of life? That fund has to be maintained. So if we're squeaking by with 3.91% because we don't want it to hurt very much, I understand trying to keep it as low as possible, but
I don't have that information.
Well,
That's not.
I don't have it with me, but I do have that spreadsheet downstairs that was created years ago that sets forth the scheduled increases. I have to look, just off the top of my head, I want to say they did that with inflation rate at 3 or 4%, and I have to check that, but.
and that concerns me too, because the inflation rate on the replacement costs is also going way up.
Absolutely right. Of what we put aside, say, $250,000 or something like that to help replace these plants at some point. In 20 years, that $250,000 is not going to be as, I'll get you a soda can where, compared to what it should be in 20 years.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying on that. I did not look at that.
So
I looked at capital improvement, I looked at operational and maintenance.
Sure.
I did not look at that, was it
Well,
10% of what are, I mean, there's
I
something.
have to look at it, but let's look at that tomorrow.
I did not look at.
And I didn't even, it didn't occur to me as to what percentage they had calculated. But we can look at that.
And that's just sitting, I think that's just in a fund.
Correct.
It's money in the bank, yeah.
Right.
There's not that much of a difference between the blue and the green.
That's what I was saying.
Exactly.
I think that I'd go for 1.5.
But that's, I think if you can bring that information back to us
Please.
next meeting, and especially if it was based on a 3 or 3.5% or whatever increase, and for us to see flat out that each year, maybe it hasn't, or, I mean, we know this year is crazy, but to project that out, maybe we do need to look at.
At the same rate, and this is just me thinking as a budgetary, where we are. Also, when we get to that 10 years, we will not be paying water rates from Highlands, that loan should be paid off. Farmers Highland will be paid off. So that money will all become, now that can go into these, is it the enterprise?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the enterprise fund.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have it. But once we get to that point, these have that sunrise set too. So hopefully when we get to that point, all these big loans have sunsetted and then we paid them off too. And, now we're not budget that. I mean,
We're not,
that's a big
yes,
chunk too.
the loans
that we
are a
put
big
out
chunk
each
of
year.
yours, yes.
So I mean, once those sunset, now that comes back into operational or back into enterprise and different things like that.
So that helps the
That's
water
looking
side.
way
Yeah.
up too, besides
Yeah.
trying to plan for this. Remember that those will sunset at some point too, and then hopefully we are really in the green. Those have sunsetted and our enterprise can cover.
And how happy would
We
people be
are-
if their bills went down?
We are budgeted this year to pay off one of those.
We are budgeted for one to pay one off this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a $50,000 annual.
So maybe we're increasing in one area and not.
So that.
So just a
comes-
consideration to
to think about
not
that,
shortchange ourselves, because,
That's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for next meeting then, I'll just leave the increase numbers blank and you can look at the documentation.
Well,
And we'll look at the enterprise And I will also look at the sunset on some of these homes.
Okay.
Some are probably still 15, 18 years old, some are
Some.
at 3 or 5.
Yeah.
So we'll present that real quick too as an idea of.
But we will have a resolution for the increase because it takes effect July 1st.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
shouldn't we be conservative with regard to the current economic situation and inflation being on the rise? I mean, should that be a consideration? I just don't want to get hamstrung. That's all. That's all. That's my
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents, exactly worth what you paid
There's
for.
no insight.
I want my water to turn on and my toilet to flush. Every day of the year when I'm here.
Every
which is every day.
Send checks made out to Ryan's Able.
So, further comments? Thank you so much for what you did prepare and you're gonna add to it and,
You've
yeah,
made a good
yeah.
points on enterprise
Cool.
and.
Cool, thank you, Mary.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thanks, buddy.
it's worth bringing to us ahead of time so we can chew on it and think about it, because it's not an easy decision, so, okay. And next is the Strauss Park update report. You've got it in your packet, from Bob Hamilton. He did a great job on keeping us updated. Thank you so much, Bob. Anything to add?
Do we have any construction dates? Like when we're gonna, I mean, this is all the restroom and this is great information, but do we have any best guess as to
Does the
July,
last-
August? No, okay.
No,
Okay.
I mean, he's still, I'd
Pretend I
ask
didn't
him,
ask.
yeah, he's
There's,
not.
it's a structural issue, isn't it?
So, I mean, his plan is still to have it finished for Christmas. And so that's what he's gonna submit a plan of what's the next stage of getting that, the booths and all that kind of stuff, but it's hard to forecast that.
Right. Okay. So, okay. Town administrator. Yes, Deanne?
I mean, there were a lot of things in his report that I have some questions on. It, for example, they're talking about the lights not being in compliance with the what's the word? The dark, skies thing. Rather than replacing them, couldn't we get some kind of, say, a perforated metal to go over the front of it like a lampshade, which would allow those to stay right where they are, but knock the light down enough that it doesn't affect the dark skies stuff. There's a lot here that, again, looks like, and I hate being the fiscal conservative on all this stuff because I'm a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, but why replace $700 worth of lights if we can just, spend a couple $100 on a shade for them that'll bring them down to where they're not blinding everybody? And who in the world would have a bathroom with a water flowing sink and no soap receptacles? I don't understand how that even happened. But someplace in there, it says they found cheaper ones than $88 a piece. There's just a lot of things here. There's the wall hydrant they're talking about. There's no key to it. And it's like, wait a minute, that should be supplied by the guys that gave it to us or that we bought it from. And so instead of having to go make one, we should be finding out why they didn't supply it. Where is it? And with the electric heater and the electric water heater, are these solar? Is there a way to quietly and cheaply convert them to solar so that we still have the same system sitting there in place as it is now? It just plugs into collectors and batteries instead of Excel that eats our servers. It just, there's a lot of details here that we need to have come in front of us before they actually do stuff with them, because again, everything's bleeding money and it's not okay. We're gonna hit a wall pretty soon. And like we need to have our water and sewer covered and our fire department and the police department. But if we quit wasting money on replacing $700 worth of lights, we could put that towards the water bills to get, or make us a fund so that it goes towards replacing the, the new plant when it comes around. But we got to start doing this stuff instead of just saying, let's throw money at it.
Thank you. So it might bear some discussion with, maybe you and Bob could sit down and see if there are any alternatives to any of these
Yeah,
things.
so I'll make a couple comments. I want Jen to, she'll respond. I think she wanted to clarify something too. I guess the first thought is just, Bob is not trying to spend money like crazy. I mean, he has been so good about this project. I mean, project manager to a T, he's great. He's been super thorough, more than I've ever seen when you delegate something to a consultant. So he's incredible. I know he's thinking about trying to be cost effective. Some of these things, when it gets to commercial grade and municipality grade, it's on a whole different cost level. And so it's not something that we have discretionary to say, oh, I'm just going down to Home Depot. Now, I would say for the soap dispenser, we did that. And it's not gonna be a long term, it's gonna break. And it's plastic, and we know that, and we're gonna replace it again and again. We can't afford to do what stainless steel version that will be up there forever. And so we are trying to cut back on some of this cost. I will ask Bob to go one more time and look at this dark sky ordinance light to see if it is possible to cut costs like Deanne suggested. I will ask him about that and then see what other, there's a certain thing that has to fit under a dark sky ordinance, and that's kind of what we're bound to. So, but I will address that. And so Jen, did you have something you wanted to?
I was just gonna mention something about those lights, but never mind. And then just the dryers, we are gonna look and get dryers, so we're not, having to use paper towels.
Right.
So that would be more.
Yeah, and I guess other thing I'll address. I don't know why some of these were not included in that. I don't know why, because I wasn't here. I'll use that card. But I do understand that when you order big things like this from companies, they don't include everything. Those are always upgrades that you'll have to do after delivery. And I suspect that that's probably what's happened here. It's just, these are the options that were not included that are requirements for us to do upgrades. And we'll have to do that. I will meet with Bob again to address some of these to see if there's any way to bring the cost down, to be conservative. So that's, it is our responsibility to for our funds. Thank you, Deanne.
I appreciate Bob's efforts on this, and I know he's, been distracted too. But I think this, in addition to recently our bridge situation down on 22nd Street, and there's other little things that come up where we've had too many oops. And to me, this is just one more example of my concern, hopefully our concern, that we really need you to be overseeing even our project managers, because a lot of these things do, and maybe this one doesn't add up to the change that we were paying on 22nd Street, because all of a sudden we were like, oh my Lord, we didn't budget for the whole, so I just ask you, now that you are here, to give it your all. And I know you are, but and it's frustrating, and so
I agree, and I appreciate you saying that. I don't know if we have ever overseen it like this, to say, let's go through this and try to cut costs. And that's kind of our job, is to make those tough decisions and not just trust and, hey, bring this to me, let me sign it. So we'll do it.
Bless you.
And maybe stainless long term is gonna save us than the plastic one every 2 or 3 months, so next budget year or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Deanne?
Unless we can put those hand dryer blower things onto a solar system, it will be cheaper in the long run to keep paper towels in there. It seems like it's going to cost more, but if you do it over a lot of years, the electric cost is too high unless, like with solar, you've got the initial investment and then it's essentially no cost. And so we really, I just, paper towels are better than the air blower thing.
Well, the paper towels have their own, side effect that then you have to clean up after them. It's more trash. So it just, there's all kinds of considerations on all sides.
I was just saying. Deanna,
All
I
of
appreciate you
that's
bringing that up.
was included in what I was talking about. In the long run, paper towels are cheaper.
I agree, and I have spoke extensively with our cleaning lady and Kevin, who has to come back behind this. And it's amazing what people will do with trash in the toilet. And we're trying to eliminate that as much as we can, because the cost to bring a plumber back in here to fix that is ridiculous today. So,
So really,
you're not saving.
You're not saving a whole lot of money by using paper towels, because you're
Correct.
not factoring in the plumber clog removal
Correct.
cost.
Or getting people to not stand on the sink.
Stand on the
Yeah.
sink.
Like, you think you have to tell that, but no, that people will do that.
No, you've got to put do not drink.
We're
on
trying to
any
eliminate.
fridge.
How much are those signs?
We're trying to eliminate as much
Yeah.
issues as possible.
Yeah.
With that.
So. Okay. So, administrators report, please.
Well, you saw my report, and I love my job. I love it that there's great things. Sometimes it's tough, I have to be honest. It's I leave some days exhausted mentally of just, like today, all I dealt with issues all day long, hard issues where everybody expects a pass, and it's tough. And I want to say I'm very supported by my staff. You've heard Ryan and Mary talk tonight, and they take their job seriously, and I can't thank them enough of just how well they're conservative, they think through things. And so with that, I am still working on the salary study. I've spent a lot of hours on it. And just the same way that Ryan is trying to be conservative, we have lots of things in our budget that is insufficient. And so we are trying to be conservative in every way to meet our needs. And one need is staff increase, salary increase. And so I'm working hard on that. Our staff need it, and we want to retain them. And so that's a big one. And I hope that you read it. And our plan is within this next month is to bring to you something similar where you get categories. And I'll give a recommendation of which one I want, but it's doing that. This past weekend, we did the cleanup, and I think it went really well. Jen, Jordan, and I have debriefed after that, and we'll probably debrief also with the Parks and Rec Commission. But I'd like to see that raised on a higher level, because I've been involved with large cleanups for 12 years, and I was disappointed with the turnout because I had higher expectations. And so I have lots of thoughts that I've given Jen of how we can raise that bar. And it just needs more planning time where we get groups involved and they are owning this to do bigger things. And so I'm excited to work with her about that. Jen is working really hard. Jen is a doer and a go-getter, and I'm really glad that she's part of this too. Where she's working hard on the 4th of July events. And I'm excited because now I've seen the borough stuff, and now the 4th of July is coming, so I look forward to that. And I also participated in the trash cleanup, believe it or not. I went out there with a grabber and walked around the lake, and it's eye-opening when you go out there. No, I don't ask you to do it because you're gonna come back and tell me more stuff to do. But it opened my eyes to see the issues that we have. And it's unfortunate because we have Kevin. And it's hard to put more on Kevin So we are in the process of hiring a temporary person to help Kevin. But I still feel like that's just a Band-Aid on what we need. So one of my thoughts that I'm looking at, that's not in my report, but it's been on my mind a lot, and some of us have been talking about, those who come and meet with me, is looking at our parking situation, examining it, and if it's possible, if you have the appetite to look at this, but doing paid parking at the lake. We're in the process of looking at our BLM agreement that we had, and we found there is a section that would allow that. And that could generate enough money to hire the sufficient amount of people to collect the trash and do the tickets necessary to maintain it. Because we don't want to do something it's just to maintain that area. And so it's a thought that I'm looking towards and would like to have a discussion with you guys in a work session. You have a question?
It was just something I observed over the weekend that one trash can on the corner of Rose and Sixth fills up, or it just looks like, I walked by and it was just overloaded.
Is that the library?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I figure, I know he's on it. Oh, it's on.
Well, I think that there is confusion on that.
Yeah, it is theirs. We will pick that up, but I went over there today to talk to the library to discuss this of like, we're willing to help you, but you know, like it's really bad and it needs to be changed. So I want to discuss it with them, but we are willing to help, you know, take up that. So.
Great. No, it's something I observed and I thought I ought to probably.
Yeah, I think some others have already brought that to my attention, like Mary.
Yeah.
I think, he didn't know he was supposed to be doing it, and then it came to light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He didn't think it was part of the route.
I thought he emptied it regularly and he just missed it because it filled up so quick.
I mean, this weekend we had a lot of people dumping a lot of trash. So we got the trash cleaned up, but then we just had a lot of people in our community. And I've been told it gets even bigger, you know, elbow to elbow around the lake and stuff. So it is a high priority for me to make our town look beautiful, not have trash everywhere. Another thing I would like to put on next work, like a work session for our next board meeting, is to discuss the idea of looking at our town and property. Is there appetite for rezoning that for housing? You know, because we have a housing shortage, we have property, it's not in the right zoning for that, but I'd like for us to discuss it. We do have another development that is nearby that also is wanting to consider it. And I have talked to Jerry Dahl about it, and we're in discussions. And I've written a long response to the developer of what his suggestions are. But I would like to talk to us of having a discussion if there's appetite. And if there's not, that's fine. That's, you know, the board has spoken, but I'd like for us to consider it, to talk through it. Now, I'm not trying to lead you, but I'd like to discuss it.
I know that it probably would make some folks skittish just because the last development project we had certainly didn't go as planned.
Yes, and I hear you. So that we can discuss it at that work session. I talked to, this is another to bring to your attention, John Kane, who is the assistant town administrator for Idaho Springs. And he just got a grant and we're in collaboration with them. We were partners for its housing related and planning. To consider looking at a collaboration between our municipalities for housing, for a housing jurisdiction. And so it's exciting. So it's $160,000 for us to put in a pot to work together. So he told me today that he got it. And so it's a huge win. Cindy Neely also got, you know, almost $1 million of grant. There is a portion for us to pay, and I don't remember how much it is. Do you remember? Okay, so that's our matching portion of it, but that's still significant grant that we got from, is it DOLA?
That's for the extension on Argentine.
CDOT, that's it.
Hers was from.
Yes.
See that?
See that, okay, yeah, that's the bike path, walkway, lighting and everything else for that area down towards so like. I did mention issues for you to be aware that I am working with them. One that's become apparent is there's a piece of property that we own past the lake, and it kind of goes around the turn. I forgot the name of that. Days total for the whole year. It's designed to camp and not to live in, and it's been there for a long time. I've addressed it and we're trying to clean it up. So, but that's an issue that we're trying to work through. Another thing is finally I was able to submit the claims to CERSA, which has been a headache to tell you. It's because our username and password has been rejected. And I don't know if it's because mine was in brushes and it was just trying to sort that out. But I'm no longer with brush, but here, but it got worked out this week. So I filed a claim for our servers. They've already been looking at it. The hardware components most likely will be covered. But this is temporary that we're dealing with right now. The 16,000 is not our server. So we're trying to, get to the point where we're looking at what it's going to cost to fix this. So we're not out of the clear by no means, but at least there's some promises. The second is we had an issue this weekend, you probably read it in the paper, about a shooting, and there were multi-police jurisdictions involved in this, and because there was a death involved, we are part of that. Even though we did not, our officer was not the one who pulled the trigger, but we were involved. And so we had to form a claim with CERSA for them to be aware. Jerry and I talked about it already, he's aware, and we'll be looking at having to do defense attorneys. It will cost the city, there's $1,000 deductible with that and court fee and attorney fees. And so we're not out of the clear with this either. They have 2 years to file a claim that they want to do, but we're trying to set ourselves for success, protection for that. So that's just to be under your attention. You got my report. So if you have any questions for me?
So can you, as the town administrator, exercise your right to change the name from Washington Mill to Water Departments?
Couldn't hear that.
It was a joke.
Yeah, that's why I want to know what the punchline was.
I defer.
So.
Also, last thing, sorry.
Go ahead.
I really would like to get time with those who I've not got time with. And so it's your turn next to get time with me.
Well, I'm waiting for your vote. Just sit there and stare at me.
Lots of lists.
Okay.
So.
All right. Anybody else have anything? I just wanted to reiterate the thank you for the Parks and Rec Commission. I thought they did a great job on working on the cleanup day, so thank you so much. And they got several volunteers out there. I saw a lot of people going through, so. Yes. No. Yes, Deanne?
I still would like to talk with Randy Williams and find out about the fire and camping thing that the HDPLC asked about.
Just the extra patrolling.
Yeah. At last meeting, I reported from their meeting that the Forest Service is shorthanded this year. And they were requesting to make sure that our police department could extend their patrols a little bit, just to, you know, be up by Silverdale and that sort of place. Because there's already a bunch of people that are sort of illegally camping, and they kind of move around, but they're the same guys, and there's, you know, it's just dangerous, as dry as it's going to be once the runoff quits. And HDPLC had asked if it was at all possible to just get extra eyes watching out for fires and illicit campers up there.
Marshall Williams?
I can respond if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Not just this year, but for several years, actually ever since the Forest Service put a ban on dispersed camping up Guanella Pass. And especially when fire bans were in place, we've gone with our mutual agency agreement with the sheriff's office and have regularly participated in traveling up Guanella Pass, especially on weekend times, and enforcing the camping ban, enforcing the fire bans. Most of the tickets that have all been written for those would have to go into the county court because they are not happening within Georgetown jurisdiction. So the same as if I issued a ticket per our mutual aid agreement outside of the city, I'd issue it into county court. But this is a project that we already have had in place for quite a while, manpower depending. So it's,
the way they were talking in the meeting, they wanted it extended a little bit further, just because they know that there's going to be something like only a couple Forest Service employees, you know, and lots of miles, you know.
I've traveled all the way up to at least Silver Dollar Lake. And then the camping kind of falls apart there. But also the banned portion is shortly after that for the Forest Service. So I don't know if there's much further we can go that would make any sense. You know, that already happens. We go up and communicate regularly with the camp hosts at Guanella Pass Campground and at Clear Lake Campground.
I think everybody's just freaked out at how dry it got last year, and right this minute we don't have a problem, but we probably will by the end of July. You know, they just thought it would.
It's already been in place. It's an activity we've been doing for years and are accustomed to.
All right. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate the extra effort.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, another thing.
I just wanted to let you guys know, we have hired, you know, we brought back an officer that has previously worked here. And I just got, somebody came into our office and wanted to publicly praise John for how great a job he's helped to serve, especially for her in the situation. She was so grateful in how he went over and above that she wanted you guys to be aware of it, and the police force of how proud they are that we have them.
It's John.
If there isn't anything else, I will adjourn.
Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Aye. It is 8:04 p.m. Thank you all so much. Well, thank you very much. Nice to meet you, Chris.
Yeah.
All right, follow along.
Let me turn everything off first.